The day Serena was welcomed back to the Vance estate was staged like a coronation. And I, Ivy, the switched-up birth heiress, became the most awkward piece of furniture in the house. Serena swept in wearing head-to-toe labels, her belly gently rounded, a victor's smile pinned to her lips. She surveyed the opulent living room that should have been hers since birth, then zeroed in on me with naked provocation. "Big sister, I'll be counting on your guidance from now on." I tugged one corner of my mouth upward and said nothing. Before we continue, please hit subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. At dinner the atmosphere turned surreal. Mom and Dad's entire attention orbited Serena, every cooed question, every proffered dish a down payment on 23 years of debt. "Serena, have more of this, it's good for the baby." Mom ladled bird nest soup into her bowl. Serena beamed, her hand instinctively curving over her bump. "Thanks, Mom. I'll eat for two. After all, what I'm carrying is priceless." Her voice wasn't loud, yet it carried to every place setting. Dad's chopsticks froze midair. Mom's complexion blanched. "Serena, Serena straightened, as though about to announce a national holiday. "I'm pregnant." Then she drilled her gaze into me, gloating. "With the Crown Prince's child." For a heartbeat the dining room was silent enough to hear a bobby pin drop. My grip on my phone tightened. Crown Prince? Who else could that be but Adrian? Some joke scaled past funny straight into radioactive. The phone vibrated in my palm, Adrian's name flashing. My pulse lurched, some imp flicked the call to speaker. A man's low, tired baritone poured out. "Ivy, the press conference just wrapped. Miss me yet?" Every pair of eyes snapped to the glowing screen. Serena's smile congealed. Before I could answer, she flung her voice toward the ceiling, as though volume equaled proof. "I'm carrying the Crown Prince's baby. We're getting married soon." The words sailed leanly through the speaker. 3 seconds of glacial silence. Then Adrian's roar detonated, rattling my eardrums. "Who the hell is spreading this crap about me?" Adrian's voice cracked across the room like thunder, scattering the Vance family like startled pigeons. Serena's face ran the traffic light gamut, scarlet, white, green. Dad's chopsticks clattered to the marble. Mom clutched her chest, staring at Serena as though she'd sprouted antlers. I killed the speaker and put the phone to my ear. "Don't blow a fuse, I'm handling it." "Handling?" Ice could have formed on his tone. "I'm outside the Vance gate. Get out here. Now." He'd actually come. I ended the call and rose. "Dad, Mom, I need to step outside." "Stay right there." Dad finally found his voice, thundering. "What the devil is going on?" Serena snapped back to life, tears materialized on cue. "Daddy, Mommy, believe me. I'm not lying. Hawthorne, just won't take responsibility." She pointed a trembling finger at me, eyes brimming with grievance. "Sister, was it you? Did you whisper poison to him? I know you love him, but you can't wreck us because you're jealous." The dirty splash caught me flat-footed. Mom bought it instantly, hugging Serena while glaring daggers at me. "Ivy, how could you? Serena's already suffered so much, and you'd snatch the last scrap of happiness from her?" 23 years of motherhood shredded in seconds by a few drops of crocodile tears. "I haven't done a thing," I said quietly. "I haven't." Still arguing. Mom's whole body shook. "You usurped Serena's life, and now you covet her man. What sort of viper did we raise?" "That's enough." The low snarl rolled from the foyer. Adrian strode in, black coat flaring, 2 bodyguards flanking him like night come early. The air pressure plummeted. His gaze swept the room, settled on me, brows knitting. "Who's been roughing you up?" He pulled me behind him as though claiming his briefcase, fingers laced through mine. The Vance gaped. Saren. A's tears dried mid-sob, her mouth formed a perfect O. Adrian ignored her, turning to Dad. "Vance, I'd like an explanation." Cold sweat dotted Dad's forehead. "M. Hawthorne, this is a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" A razor-sharp smile. "Someone claims to be carrying my child, still a misunderstanding?" His stare finally flicked to Serena. No tenderness, only revulsion you could skate on. "You're pregnant by me?" Serena recoiled, then lifted her chin. "Why yes. Yours." "What night? What location?" He advanced one measured step. 3 months ago, at Club Nocturne." She whispered, gaze darting. Adrian gave a soft, ugly laugh. 3 months ago I was keynoting a livestream tech summit in Zurich. Either I've mastered bilocation, or your family thinks math is optional. He withdrew a dossier and flung it onto the coffee table. "My minute-by-minute itinerary, every witness, every stamp. Want the attendee list to cross-examine?" Color drained from Serena's cheeks like pulled plugs. "In my eyes, it doesn't matter whose daughter she is. She's simply Ivy." I love the person she is, she has nothing to do with the Vance family. Those two sentences obliterated every last defense Serena had. They also twisted my mother's face into something unreadable. She looked at me, then at Adrian on his knees, remorse and bewilderment swimming in her eyes. My father wore the expression of a man struck by a windfall bolt of lightning, pure shock chased by poorly hidden elation. If I married Adrian, then the Vance and Hawthorne alliance. I drew a slow breath and met Adrian's gaze. I knew he meant every word. While everyone else wavered because of my birthright, only he had chosen me without hesitation. Warmth folded around my heart. I nodded. I do. Adrian smiled, a flash that could melt glaciers, blinding in its brilliance. He rose and slid the ring onto my finger, perfect fit. Then, in front of them all, he lowered his head and kissed me. Right then my mother crumpled under the barrage of dram. Blacked out, and toppled backward. Mom! My father's yell turned the living room into chaos. Serena lunged through the turmoil, shrieking, Mom! What's wrong, Mom? It's all your fault, Ivy. You made her faint. Amid the confusion I caught the smug little smirk tugging at Serena's lips. Chapter 4 Antiseptic flooded the hospital corridor. They had rushed Mom into an ER bay. Dad paced outside the door, agitated. Serena occupied a bench, sobbing as though the world owed her an apology. The instant she spotted me she launched herself like I was her nemesis. Ivy! You jinx! This is all you. If anything happens to Mom, I'll make you pay. Adrian yanked me behind him, blocking her flailing claws. Watch your mouth. His eyes were arctic. Serena recoiled but kept spitting venom. It's true. If you hadn't upset Mom she wouldn't have collapsed. You did it on purpose. Dad stopped pacing, exhaustion etched on his face, blame simmering in his eyes. Ivy, today, you really went too far. Ice collected around my heart. What exactly had I done wrong? I was the one slandered, the one condemned in public, and now Mom's collapse was somehow my fault too. What did I do wrong? I shot back. Dad choked on the answer, then finally managed, you shouldn't have accepted the proposal in front of your mother. You know Serena, she's hurting. Ridiculous. Because Serena was hurting, I deserved to be framed and sacrificed? Adrian's patience snapped. He gave a cold laugh. Interesting logic, Vance. Someone smears me, ruins my reputation, I state the facts and defend my fiancé, and somehow we're the villains? He paused, voice sharpening to a scalpel's edge. Or do you secretly wish the rumor were true so the Vance family can climb aboard my coattails? Dad's face flushed the color of liver. Adrian's words had lanced straight through to the ugliest calculation in his heart. Just then a cool voice cut in. Dad, how's Mom? My brother Jason arrived. White coat still on, fatigue shadowing his eye. He'd come straight from surgery. Jason was the only Vance who'd treated me decently, though we'd never been close. The moment Serena saw him she dove into his arms, wailing. Jason! Mom fainted because of Ivy. Check on her, please. Jason frowned, set her aside, and studied me with clinical detachment. What happened? Before I could answer, Adrian's aide Linson hurried over. Hawthorne, we found it. He handed Adrian a tablet. Adrian skimmed, a frosty smile curving his mouth. He turned the screen toward Jason. Vance, your sister's acting talents are wasted in Eastbrook. She should collect her Oscar. On it, security footage. Serena in a club booth, entangled with a man, hands everywhere. Timestamped on the very night she'd claimed to be with her older brother. Below that sat a detailed dossier. Serena, high school dropout, drifting through nightlife circuits, drowning in gambling markers and loan shark debt. Her so-called pregnancy? A scripted con. The fetus belonged to no crown prince but to some nameless barback. She'd run to the Vance estate so they could foot her bill. Jason's complexion turned ash-gray. He stared at Serena as though weighing which blade would flay her fastest. Serena shook, lips quivering, no sound escaping. Jason. Crack. A slap echoed down the corridor. Jason had swung with everything he had. Chapter 5 That slap stunned Serena, and stunned Dad. Jason. Have you lost your mind? Dad roared. She's your sister. Sister? Jason laughed in fury, finger stabbing at the tablet. Dad, open your eyes. This is the daughter you've pined for 20+ years? Lies, filth, debts, schemes, she's ready to bury us all. And you call her my sister? Dad scanned the sordid documents, his knees buckled. He couldn't accept that the child he'd mourned was this wreck. Serena cupped her swelling cheek and finally broke, sobbing. I didn't want this. They made me. The sharks wanted their money or my life, what choice did I have? She clutched Dad's sleeve. Save him. Dad. I'm really your daughter. You can't abandon me. Dad's gaze flickered, torn between clan honor and blood. Just then the ER doors parted. The physician stepped out. She's stable, stress-induced syncope. Rest and she'll recover. Everyone exhaled. Dad grabbed the lifeline. Good, good, let's leave it there. We'll speak once your mother wakes. Family shame mustn't travel. Classic mop-up. Adrian's face darkened. So, Vance, my girlfriend gets defamed and we all just move on? Dad stiffened, forcing a smile. Hawthorne, Serena was momentarily reckless, and she's pregnant, after all. Pregnant? Adrian cut in, contempt thick. By whom, Vance? Shall I summon that bar back for a family conference? Dad's cheeks burned purple. Serena went chalk-white at the word bar back. She knew Adrian never bluffed. No. Don't bring him, she shrieked. Then gag yourself, Adrian said, voice like a venomous blade. Utter one more syllable about Ivy and I'll erase you and your toy boy from this coast. The threat rang naked and absolute. Serena clamped her mouth shut, trembling. Dad looked ready to vomit. Adrian had dismissed the entire Vance family, and there was nothing he dared do about it. The corridor's atmosphere had turned suffocating. Suddenly Serena pressed both hands to her belly and let out a pained moan. Ah, my stomach, it hurts. Her face drained of color, cold sweat sprouting across her forehead as she curled inward. Jason's first instinct, the doctor in him, was to step forward. What's wrong? The baby, my baby. Serena sobbed, grabbing his white coat. Jason, save my baby. My parents panicked and crowded in. Quick. Call a doctor. The corridor exploded into fresh chaos. I watched the scene with cool detachment. Real cramps, or another act? Adrian tightened his grip on my hand and murmured against my ear, don't look. Let's go. He wanted to pull me away from the melodrama. I gave a small shake of my head. Wait. The performance wasn't over. I wanted to see what other CK Serena had up her sleeve. Chapter 6. As it turned out, this time Serena's pain was real. After an exam the doctor diagnosed a threatened miscarriage and ordered immediate bed rest. So Serena checked straight into the VIP suite, right next door to Mom. Dad scurried back and forth, tending one moment to his wife and the next to his daughter, frayed beyond exhaustion. Jason filled the paperwork with clinical detachment, then told me, Ivy, go home with Adrian. I've got this. His eyes were complicated. Tonight's farce had probably burned the last scrap of sibling loyalty he still felt for Serena. I nodded and left the hospital with Adrian. In the back seat he kept my hand locked in his. Feeling railroaded? He asked. I shook my head and leaned into his shoulder. Not railroaded, just ridiculous. More than 20 years of family affection, and it crumbled this easily. Move out, Adrian said abruptly. I blinked. Come to my place. That house doesn't deserve another day of you. His tone left no room for argument. Warmth surged through me. In the whole world, only he stands unconditionally on my side. Okay. I didn't pretend to demur. The Vance estate is not my home anymore. It was late when we reached the mansion. The living room was still trashed exactly as we'd left it. I ignored the mess, went upstairs, and locked myself in my old bedroom. I'd lived in this room for over 20 years. Every object carried some thread of my past. Yet now it felt utterly foreign. I began quietly packing. There wasn't much worth taking, most of the clothes and jewelry had come from the Vances. I selected a few everyday outfits I'd bought myself, some books, a handful of souvenirs. Halfway through I discovered a tiny locked box in the nightstand's deepest drawer. I'd kept childhood treasures inside, but the key had vanished years ago. I straightened a bobby pin, jimmied the lock for several minutes, and finally popped it open. Inside lay knickknacks, a faded photo of 5-year-old me reading Jason's shoulders at an amusement park, a cheap jade pendant engraved with an odd symbol, and a business card. The card was dog-eared and yellowed, but the lettering was still sharp. Sterling, Chairman, Victor. My pulse lurched. Victor. Where had I heard that? Right, Adrian had mentioned him recently. A new, enigmatic tycoon who'd exploded onto the East Coast scene, so low profile that even the Hawthorne family treads lightly around him. How had his card landed in my keepsake box? I had no memory of it. I flipped it over. Penciled on the back, in childish scrawl, were an address and a phone number. A fuzzy idea darted through my mind and vanished. How many years since I'd last opened this box? Since the winter I was 10, bedridden with a fever that wiped whole chunks of childhood blank. After that illness I'd never touched the box again. Could these things have been stashed just before the fever hit? I studied the business card, and a wild, ridiculous suspicion unfurled. Maybe my origins were far more complicated than I'd ever imagined. Chapter 7. Next morning I took the card to Adrian. He was in his study reviewing decks. He arched a brow when he saw the name. Victor? You know him? I asked. Not personally. He leaned back, expression grave. But the whispers are loud. The man's an iceberg, 90% underwater. He examined the card. Where did you get this? My old treasure box, I said, recounting everything, jade pendant, the photo, the fever that blurred my memory. Adrian's frown deepened. 10 years old. Victor surfaced around 15 years ago. The timing fits. He pondered, then rang his chief of staff. Lynn, pull every record on Ivy before age 10, school, clinics, sealed adoptions, whatever exists. And mine everything on Sterling's Victor. Deep background. I want the dirt even he forgot. After he hung up he studied me, eyes unreadable. Don't be scared. I'm here. For small words, yet they quieted the storm inside me. Waiting was agony. I moved out of the Vance estate and into Adrian's mansion. Dad phoned once, voice strained, asking where I was staying and telling me Mom kept asking for me. I answered non-committally, promising neither visit nor boycott. Serena, on bed rest orders, clung to stability. The security footage plus her history of stunts had cooled my parents' pity. Dad froze her black cards, only the housekeeper's daily bird nest soup still reached her. She threw tantrums, but Jason shut them down with stone-faced authority. Without the Vance name she was nothing. 3 days later Lynn delivered his report. My paper trail was simple. Born at a modest hospital, switched, raised by the Vances. At 10 I'd spent half a month in the ER bay with viral meningitis. My medical chart listed 2 legal guardians. One, Richard Vance, I recognized. The second name stole my breath, Victor. I stared, dizzy. Impossible. Mom and Dad Vance almost certainly never knew, Lynn added. The file was sealed. I cracked it through a back channel. Adrian's face darkened. Background on Victor? That's the eerie part, Lynn replied. The man's past is blank canvas. He materialized in Boston 15 years ago and amassed sterling. No records before that. No family, no school, no debts. Like he rewrote himself from thin air. No one can scrub their past that clean, unless the power protecting them is absolute. Adrian met my gaze, something wary flickered behind his eyes. Ivy, that address and number on the card, still remember them? I nodded. The address is a demolished block in Southside, the phone's a dead line. Every lead seemed to end in rubble. Adrian tapped the table. Not necessarily. The land parcel was bought. I know exactly who owns it. Who? Victor. My heart slammed against my ribs again. Could any of this really be coincidence? He bought the land parcel years ago and has left it sitting empty ever since. Adrian stood, grabbing his coat. Come on. Let's go ask him why. Chapter Sterling's headquarters towered over the busiest corner of Eastbrook CBD. We had no appointment, so the receptionist stopped us cold. I'm sorry, without an appointment no one sees the chairman. Adrian didn't waste words. He called Lawson. Within 5 minutes Victor's chief secretary rode the elevator down and escorted us upstairs herself, every gesture syrupy with deference. Hawthorne, Sterling, the chairman is expecting you. The woman's humility felt almost theatrical, and every instinct screamed that something was off. The chairman's office swallowed the entire top floor. A single sheet of glass formed one wall, framing half the city like a private cinema. A tall man stood with his back to us, hands clasped behind him, apparently admiring the view. His charcoal suit was cut to millimeter perfection. Even from behind he radiated the stillness of someone who had issued orders that moved freighters and governments for decades. Footsteps echoed as we crossed the marble. He turned slowly. The face was handsome, refined, mid-40s, preserved with the disciplined vanity of the very rich. Eyes the color of winter seawater swept past Adrian and pinned themselves to me. That gaze carried too much: surprise, relief, memory, and something that looked almost like grief. You came. His voice was warm, tempered, yet I caught the tremor beneath it. He sounded as though he were greeting someone he had known forever. I froze, glancing at Adrian. Adrian shifted half a step in front of me, shielding me while his own eyes narrowed in warning. Sterling, we're here for an answer. Only then did Victor look at him, and the gentleness vanished, replaced by a razor's edge. Hawthorne boy, you stole my daughter and now you march her in here to interrogate me? Daughter? My mind blanked, a high-pitched ringing filling my ears. My, what? Adrian recovered first. Sterling, words matter. Ivy is the Vance's daughter. The Vances? Victor's laugh cracked like a whip. Richard Vance isn't fit to tie my daughter's shoes. He slid open a drawer and produced a slim folder. See for yourself, child. My hand shook as I took it. A DNA report. Test subjects, Sterling, Victor, Sterling, Ivy. Conclusion, probability of paternity 99.99%. Victor was my biological father? The paper seemed to detonate inside my skull. If that was true, how had I ended up with the Vances? And who in God's name was Serena? This can't be real, I whispered. I know it's a storm to take in, Victor said, voice softening, eyes shining with something perilously close to tears. Your mother died bringing you into the world. I had enemies circling, 1 container ship sunk, 2 board members shot. I entrusted you to the one ally I thought bulletproof, Richard's wife, your Aunt Eleanor. I gave them enough money to raise a dozen children. The deal was simple, keep you safe until the smoke cleared, then I'd come back. Greed turned their heads. They switched you with a random infant, paraded her as their heiress, and tucked you away as the mistaken daughter, betting your real family would someday pay ransom for you. That locket you never take off? He pointed to the vintage pendant at my throat. I left it with you. They decided any baby wearing jade that fine had to come from money, so they played along. Serena, his tone iced over, is a prop they adopted from Seabreeze to cement the lie. The room seesawed. Adrian locked an arm around my waist before my knees buckled. You claim a hell of a story, Adrian said, Arctic calm. Show me proof. Victor's smile was almost pitying. My word is proof. He paused, letting the silence settle, then spoke only to me. Ivy, come home. Let me spend the next 20 years giving you the ones that were stolen. Chapter Victor's declaration rang like a gavel. He believed himself judge and jury, his word was sufficient. That autocratic certainty was the twin of Adrian's own. I stared at the black and white numbers on the report, then at the man who insisted he was my blood. A quarter center. Why of memories shattered like sugar glass, every bedtime story, every scraped knee bandaged by Eleanor, every curt nod from Richard, performance art. My real father, according to this paper, was a man whose name could make Eastbrook's old money matrons tremble. It felt obscene. Adrian's hand found the small of my back, reading the tremor that wouldn't stop. Don't swallow it whole, he murmured. We walk out, we verify everything. He didn't trust Victor. More precisely, he didn't trust anyone who showed up claiming ownership of the one thing he would kill to protect. Victor lifted a brow, amused. Such suspicion, Hawthorne. Do you imagine I left her in that nest of amateurs for fun? He moved to the mahogany bar, pouring 2 glasses of Bordeaux, offering one to Adrian. When my ship started exploding I had gunmen on 3 continents. A nursery with my DNA in it would have been target number 1. Labeling her the swapped kid in a middle-class subdivision was the best camouflage I could buy. I never lost sight of her. When she was 10 and the infection nearly killed her, I flew in the pediatric team that saved her life. The sealed Guardian document you found? My insurance policy. I meant to reveal myself after she graduated, once Sterling's board was purged. Then those idiots found Serena and dragged the circus to town ahead of schedule. Each sentence fitted the puzzle pieces we hadn't been able to place, the ghost medical chart, the unexplained equity funneling into Eleanor's charities, the guardianship clause that had appeared overnight in a county database. Adrian's expression cycled through fury, calculation, reluctant acceptance, and landed on the only verdict that mattered, mine. Ivy, what do you want to do? I sucked in air, tasting antiseptic and old rage. Time, I said, voice ragged. I need time. Victor's shoulders loosened, as if I'd granted him reprieve instead of delay. Take all you need, sweetheart. I'll be here. He fished a matte black card from the drawer and pressed it into my palm. Unlimited. Pin is your birthday. Don't deny me this. I started to refuse. Adrian closed my fingers over it. We'll accept Sterling's gesture, he said, already steering me toward the door. The rest is up to her. We left Victor standing in the skybox office, city glittering at his feet like coins on a table he intended to sweep into his pocket. Outside, late afternoon sun ricocheted off the mirrored tower and I had to shield my eyes. What happens to them? I asked. Adrian's answer was quiet, final. The Vances will pay. I needed time to digest everything. That night, Adrian knocked and came in carrying a bowl of congee. Skipping meals isn't an option. He set it on the side table, sat beside me, and stayed quiet. Only after a long while did I speak. Adrian, did you suspect it all along? He hesitated, then nodded. The moment you flashed that business card, something felt off. The Vance estate didn't deserve you. Plain, direct words, yet they stung my eyes. Right, without Victor, I was no longer the Ivy the Vances could push around. I was Adrian's fiancée. That was enough. The next morning, Eastbrook's business world convulsed. Vance was blasted for cooked books, tax evasion, a whole cascade of scandals. The ticker flatlined at the opening bell. Banks called in loans, partners tore up contracts. Once the walls cracked, everyone pushed. The Vance empire crumbled. It happened so fast jaws dropped. I knew who had struck. Victor and Adrian. Together they'd flattened the Vances overnight. Richard Vance rang me nonstop. I let every call die. Finally Jason texted. Ivy, I'm sorry. Mom and Dad earned their fate. But for the years she raised you, spare her one way out. I stared at the screen, emotions tangled. A debt of upbringing. If that kindness had been schemed from day one, how much of it was ever real? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. Victor. Ivy, let's meet. There's something I should hand you myself. His voice carried a weariness I'd never heard. I agreed. We met in a hushed tea house. Victor looked haggard, shadows bruising his eyes. He gave me a thick envelope. Your mother left this for you. Inside, a stack of letters and a photograph of a woman. Gentle eyes, soft smile, 7/10 my mirror image. My mother? I unfolded the first letter. The paper had yellowed, the writing delicate. To my beloved daughter, Ivy. Tears slipped free as I read line after line. A mother's hopes for the child she hadn't met. The story of her love with Victor. Her acceptance of death's approach and her ache at missing my life. Never cursing fate, only regretting she wouldn't watch me grow. Victor passed me a tissue. Your mother was tender, brave, he whispered. I failed to protect you both. I shook my head, vision blurred. Thank you for giving me life. In that instant every wall between us dissolved. He was my father. Nothing could change that. Dad. The word left my lips softly. Victor's frame shuddered, eyes reddening. He'd waited 20-some years for that syllable. Chapter 10. After the reunion my world flipped. I moved into the old Sterling Manor, a classical Chinese-style compound dwarfing the Vance mansion. Victor wanted to shower me with everything the lost decades had stolen. Sports cars, townhouses, haute couture gowns, jewels, piled in my suite. He assigned 20% of sterling straight into my name. Overnight the awkward fake heiress became Eastbrook's hottest socialite, the only daughter and heir of Sterling. The Vance's end was bleak. Vance entered Chapter 11, their mansion auctioned, Richard jailed on multiple counts. Eleanor cracked under the blow and was committed to Seabreeze. Jason sold every asset he had to place her there, then vanished from the city. As for Serena, she lost the baby. Under Adrian's attention, the barback skipped town loaded with gambling markers. Abandoned, Serena spiraled. When the dust settled I waited for vindictive triumph. Instead I felt, no ing. They were simply a chapter of mistakes, now closed, the narrative set right. Adrian griped about my new life. Is your dad trying to bury you in cash so you'll forget you've got a fiancé? He pinched my cheek, jealousy dripping. Since I'd moved into the manor he haunted its halls daily, terrified Victor would steal me away. Victor gave him side-eye. Hawthorne boy, my daughter just came home. Wedding talks can wait. No more waiting, Adrian fired back. I've waited 3 years, long enough. 2 titans of commerce bickering like toddlers over my wedding date, with me caught in the middle, laughing and exasperated. The day I turned 23, Victor threw a gala birthday bash that drew every A-lister in Eastbrook. Wearing the gown my mother had designed before I was born, I stepped into the spotlight. Victor clasped my hand and announced, my daughter, Ivy, my sole heir. Applause thundered. In the front row Adrian stood, gaze tender and unwavering, telling me across the crowd that I deserved the universe. After the party he led me to the rooftop garden. Under moonlight he produced not a ring box but a key. What's this? I asked. Your birthday present. He laid it in my palm. The Southside land parcel, I bought it from your father. I froze. That plot held my childhood memories, the old now rubble, the address scribbled on the back of my first business card. Why? To build you a home, he said, eyes deadly serious. Ours alone. No flowery vows, just the deed. My heart overflowed. I rose on tiptoe and kissed him. Adrian, I love you. He deepened the kiss until I was breathless, then rested his forehead against mine, voice rough. Ivy, since you love me so much, how about making it official and becoming Hawthorne? Starlight swam in his dark eyes along with my tiny reflection. I smiled. All my wandering paths had led to this full stop. Our future would write its next chapter together. In the distance city neon shimmered. Adrian wrapped me from behind, chin nest in in the hollow of my neck, breath warm against my ear. Actually, my parents already have our wedding house ready. Thanks for listening today. If you enjoyed the story, please like and share with friends. We look forward to your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more tales. See you next time.